of Us Anxious Folk. My name is Lauren, I am your host, and today's episode is called Finding Hope Within Presence, which I know is probably not the most useful podcast episode title because it doesn't actually really tell you what this episode is about, but that is what came to me as I was sitting post-yoga and just like breathing. That's what popped up and I was like, okay, we will roll with it. So what I mean when I talk about finding hope with presence is this urge that we all have to escape the panic and the anxiety. And this is something that, it's constant for me, is just this. Sometimes it's a conscious need and sometimes it's an unconscious need, but it's this need to take anxiety out of the equation in my life. Like, if I have to go somewhere, I have plans to meet friends somewhere and I wake up in the morning and I'm in the shower and I suddenly get that feeling of like, oh no, like the anxiety's coming. There's this sort of attempt in me to like want to push it down. I don't want to feel this. I don't have time for this today. I want to go out and feel normal and be normal, and I don't want to feel these things. This has come up for me when I've been in therapy or had a breakdown with my partner and said I don't want to feel this way anymore. This has come up for me when I have had those episodes where I've had a huge increase in anxiety and I'm like, what's happening? Why is this happening? What can I do to fix it? How can I get back to like this baseline level of not feeling much anxiety? And it's this like clawing back to removing the uncomfortable feelings, and that's natural and normal and understandable. But what I found over the years is that it doesn't necessarily help. It kind of increases that feeling of panic and fear, and it tells the body that there's something wrong here, which is what then further ignites those feelings of anxiety. It's what kicks in that survival instinct, that fight or flight response, because my body's saying something's not okay inside me. And so when I say finding hope with presence, what I am referring to is finding a way to decrease those anxious feelings by sitting with them and paying them more attention than we would want to, or more attention than we think is consciously helpful. And I think that there needs to be a like a clarification, I guess, that I think a lot of us realize that we spend a lot of time focusing on our anxiety because what we're focusing on is trying to remove it. I've spoken about this so many times before, that it's like this obsession with trying to fix ourselves that makes us feel more broken. For those of you not watching the video, that was broken in air quotes, because you are not broken. We are not broken. We're just disconnected from who we are. So it's this need to fix things, and so we obsess about it. We obsess about how we can make ourselves feel better, and so ultimately we are focusing on our anxiety, but we're coming from the approach of like, how can I get rid of this? And I know years ago I was pretty annoying to be around when I was in my the throes of really deep panic disorder, because of my obsession with it and because of my need to not feel it. It was all I could think about, all I could talk about, all I could, like, everything was consumed by it, and I was desperate to not feel that way. And I could see that was all I was focusing on, but I didn't know how to get rid of it, because every time I tried to get rid of it, I just found myself more firmly ensconced within it. So I was like, whether I focus on my anxiety or I don't focus on my anxiety, either way, I'm screwed. But what I found out over the years is there is a way that you can be with your anxiety, and there is a way that you can focus on your anxiety that helps. And the best metaphor or analogy I found to explain this, which came to me also during my post-yoga glow, which was to think of your anxiety like a small business, which I know sounds fucking bizarre, but stay with me. What I mean is, if you were to create a small business, you would spend a lot of time with it. You would devote a lot of your time to it. You would be sharing about it. You would be talking about it. You would be trying to make relationships to help that business grow. You would be reflecting on it a lot. You would be encouraging it and nurturing it. It would be your baby. And compare that to the way we spend time with our anxious selves, and I think there's a huge difference in that. I certainly know there is for me. I do not treat my anxiety like a small business, or I did not used to. I treated my anxiety like it was this blight on my existence. And, a quick search on the interwebs reveals that a lot of the search terms for anxiety, related to anxiety, are very much, to the tune of, how do I get rid of my anxiety? Anxiety is ruining my life. What else is there? Anxiety is killing me. Can anxiety ever be cured? Can I ever get rid of my anxiety? So there's a lot of us walking around this life, spending a lot of time with our anxiety against our will and not wanting to do that. I think that if we start spending time with our anxiety in the sense that it's something we are trying to nurture and something we are trying to grow, which again, I know sounds crazy, and it's like, I don't want my anxiety to grow, but think about it in the sense that Dr. Gabor Mate. Dr. Gabor Mate speaks about this a lot when he talks about, nurturing the emotions that we don't want to feel, and instead of suppressing them, really honoring that they're there and allowing them space, and sitting with your anxiety and wanting it to grow in a positive way. I think what we're aiming for is to hold that feeling of possible threat, hold that feeling of separation, hold that feeling of alarm, and grow it in a way that is necessary for us as humans to grow. Grow it in the sense that it's like, I know that these are instinctual things that I feel, and it's okay and it's good and it's human of me to feel those things. And I want to grow them to help support me. Like, I actually want to check in with my body and go, okay, what am I feeling overwhelmed by today? What am I scared of today? Like, what am I telling myself unconsciously that is increasing this feeling of alarm in my body? Am I telling myself that I am different, that I am not lovable, that I am not, I don't belong? Am I telling myself that I'm not trying hard enough? Am I telling myself that, I'm going to be embarrassed or I'm going to be ashamed? How can I grow my anxiety in the sense that I am telling myself and I am teaching myself that I am safe and I am loved, and it's okay to, put yourself in the sort of like eyesight of shame, but to show yourself despite that. How can I sit with my anxiety with complete presence and notice everything that's there and want to strengthen that and encourage that and, talk about that and build relationships about that. So if this is something that you feel sore back and neck, if this is something that you feel called to explore in your own life, maybe to sit down and write out how you can treat your anxiety like a small business. Like, what would that look like? And I know for me it would be spending more time writing, because writing is a way that I really unravel the shit that's going on in my brain and like give it space and give it air and like give it words, like I can take it out of my head and put it on paper, and my brain's like, oh, that's what I'm thinking, that's what I'm feeling, right? Because in here it's just static and noise and overwhelm, and in my gut and my body it's like, urgency to like get it out. What is this? What is this movement? Urgency to get it out of myself. And so when I write it down, my body's like, I can breathe because I've transmuted that, So writing it down, spending more time doing mindful movement. I was actually doing this thing in my car this morning as I was driving Juliet to daycare, where I was breathing and moving my hands at the same time, because I've heard that when you use breath work, it's good to move your body at the same time, because connecting your body and breath kind of like brings this like regulatory response in the body. So I was breathing in and putting my arms out, and then breathing out and bringing them in. And I looked back and Juliet was doing the same thing in the baby seat. She was like doing this, and she's like, do this, mama, do this. And it was really cute. We want to nurture our bodies. We consciously say, I want to nurture my body, I want to treat my body well. But when it comes to the emotions that we're feeling, we want to remove those because they're not correct, or they're not appropriate, or they don't feel good. And I get that, because anxiety doesn't feel good. I don't like it either. There are so many times where I feel like I just don't want to have this feeling in my body. Like, why do other people don't seem to have this feeling? Why do they seem to be able to get around and be okay, and I can't? And there's this frustration there, but that is not an encouragement of my humanness. That's not presence. There's no hope in that. There's like a denial, I guess. There's a suppression, there's a contraction that isn't helpful. So how can I go back to being present with the things that I'm feeling, and how can I find hope in that presence? And yeah, for me, relating it back to a small business and like something that I want to nurture and encourage and grow, and something that I want to talk about and be with, like that's how I find hope in that presence. That's how I find helpful presence. So yeah, writing down what that looks like for you. I'd love for you to share it if you feel up to it. And yeah, let me know how you go. I hope you're all doing really well, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Us Anxious Folk podcast, the podcast for the chronically overwhelmed, perpetually panicked, anxious folk in all of us. If you would like to find more about me, you can find me on YouTube at Lauren Rose, or on Instagram at Lauren R_Rose.